Our next presentation, I see we will have two presenters, I believe, and this is Greening the Greyfields. So I'd like to introduce Peter Newman and Peter Newton, P1 and P2 as we refer to them within the CRCSI. And by way of background, Peter Newman is a professor of sustainability at Curtin University. He's best known for his work in Perth in saving and reviving, extending the city's rail system. He invented the term automobile dependence to describe how we have created cities, where we have to drive to everywhere. He's on the board of Infrastructure Australia and is a lead author for the transport on the IPCC. His recent books, Technologies for Climate Change Mitigation, Transport in the UN Environment, and Resilient Cities. But also say he has quite an impressive bio. In 2001-2003, Peter directed the production of WA Sustainability Strategy in the Department of the Premier and Cabinet, and his book with Jeff Kenworthy, Sustainability in Cities, Overcoming Automobile Dependence, was launched at the White House in the US in 1999.
We have a tag team, and I'll start giving a bit of an overview. The other names here, Roman Trubka and Stephen Glacken, are the postdocs who are doing all the work on this project, one at Curtin and one at Swinburne. And Roman is here, and he'll be doing a presentation this afternoon in the modelling session. The Greyfields are the middle suburbs, and not the brownfields of the inner suburbs or the greenfields of the outer suburbs. And they are the attention for a lot of planning at the moment, because they are reaching a point where redevelopment is occurring. The first part, Module 1, has been about why this focus is needed. It's about urban development economics. It's completed and the paper has been produced. Module 2 we're working on now, which is where best to redevelop and what kind of data do you need for that. And we've produced 4 tools which are part of a SUSIP tool, Shared Urban Spatial Information platform. The next 2 phases we are beginning to plan now. They are the what, the visualisation and assessment, which will produce a sketch planning tool, and Module 4, who and how, which is a community engagement and actual demonstration of these tools. We have been demonstrating the first 4 tools that we produced during the conference and getting a lot of interest in them, which is why you have conferences, I think, especially this one. The Module 1 paper, there's a whole lot of words there, but essentially concentrating, agglomerating cities has a huge impact on productivity. Scattering cities is not clever, and Roman's work in his PhD produced some numbers down the bottom there. They may seem to be simple little numbers, but they are highly valued, because if you've got $1 billion rail project that you're trying to get money from Infrastructure Australia for, and if you don't know the agglomeration economies that are produced from that, you can't do the benefit-cost ratio nearly as well. So you find that benefit-cost ratios go from 1 to 1.5 if you start incorporating the agglomeration economies. And it makes the difference between whether you get investment or not. So some very significant numbers have come out of that Module 1. And they essentially show that the knowledge economy jobs are attracted to centres. They don't go into shopping centres and scatter around the suburbs the way often they are predicted. They are in centres, and they are therefore part of the agglomeration process. So this is the rationale. Why do we want to bring more people into the middle suburbs? Because all they've got is shopping centres. There's nothing much else out there. And if you want to make real centres work, you need more people. The Module 2 has partners in 2 planning departments and 2 local governments, City of Manningham and the City of Canning. And we've been working away in Canning, and we'll go through the Manningham data. Peter Newton will do that. But in Canning, we found statistically there were 4 factors that could predict where redevelopment was likely to happen based on those four parameters there. And we also produced a tool which could be used for planners. So if you want to get more aged housing, where do you, where's the best place to do that? And this is the kind of results you produce. If you want more student housing, or you want just to focus on putting in more housing near transport routes. These are the parameters you can play with, and you have a tool now where you can slide those bars to weight them, each of the parameters that you've got, and it's a very powerful tool for planners. Now, planners are not used to doing digital planning. They love to be able to have bits of paper and sketches and lots of zoning and stuff, and the only numbers they ever get down to are what are the final outcome in terms of the densities you're allowed and that kind of thing. But this tool is a strategic planning tool, and there aren't too many of these around, and it is the kind of tool that will be very useful. There's another tool that will produce housing options. So when we went through and found the areas that are already redeveloping, and we find that there are these groupings of houses that now the developers would normally go in and stick a unit or two in the backyard, and you're actually not getting any optimal outcomes. There's no real potential to do anything in planning terms. So if you can link them together and make them one project, like in the bottom one there, you'll get better outcomes, and you have the opportunity to actually produce a set of housing typologies that can then be used in the process of convincing people that area needs to change in a more coherent way, rather than just letting developers pick off the odd house. So the next phase is how you put this to work: visualisation and assessment and community engagement. Now, we're looking for more partners at this point. We're about to apply for the money for this, and we've had some really good talks with the University of Canterbury, and Simon will be joining us on the next phase of this, so that we can work with CIRA. And Richard McDoid's, with his fabulous presentation that he did the other day, shows you how so much of the focus has been on the centre, but the suburbs are also part of their of what they need to do to help in the recovery process. And in many ways, they're like the middle suburbs, where you've got particular houses that are already being redeveloped. Well, they've got particular houses that have fallen down and need redeveloping. So the opportunity is there to go in with this tool and help in the planning process. So you know how many people are likely to be able to be located there, rather than in the Greenfields, which the knee-jerk reaction is, well, let's just start again out further. And so Sarah and Canterbury, we're looking to involve in this. We've got various firms that are interested in helping us with the visualisation tools. Kinesis is an assessment tool, and the possibility of actually working in Brisbane is there as well, and we still to pull that one off. So the next phase involves assessment tools. This is one, the Kinesis tool, that shows how you can assess the transport implications, the embodied carbon, the energy, the water, the affordability of the housing, those kind of things, with different technologies that you can introduce for the development. And visualisation is the process that is needed for any kind of redevelopment process. This is in Fremantle, but it's the kind of thing we need to develop and do really well in the middle suburbs. The possibility of doing visualisation using this technology that you've seen presented and will be shown in the next presentation is something that we are going to look at as well as software for engaging communities like this new 21st century dialogue software that you can enter the information in and process it and make it available at the end of the discussion. So that's our overview, and Peter Newton's going to talk about the detail of what's been happening in Melbourne.
The beauty of this project is the data and the software that we've now assembled allows you to have a look at some of the issues that are challenging the planners of our cities. All capital cities have targets for infill. Melbourne has 53% targets, some have larger. So the question is, how do you achieve that? Well, we think that it's a matter of being able to engage redevelopment in a more intensive manner in the Greyfields. Activity centres have been involved as part of the strategic planning for quite some time now. Transport corridors are an emerging model. And what we're doing in this project is trying to develop a data and a software platform plus a development model for engaging in precinct redevelopment in the suburban housing of the middle ring suburbs. What we find from some preliminary analysis is that most redevelopment of housing in the middle suburbs occurs in a piecemeal, fragmented way, away from the activity centres, which are the rings, and away from the transport corridors. Given that we have all of this data now for metropolitan Melbourne, we can actually quantify at a metropolitan level where development is occurring. And if you removed the CBD of Melbourne, the 5.36, there's not much additional housing redevelopment occurring within the major activities, the principal and the minor activity centres within Melbourne. Yet they're the principal magnets that are in the strategic plans for our cities. Likewise, the corridors, the transport corridors are not attracting the scale of redevelopment of housing that also one would expect. And high accessibility to public transport appears to be only operating in the brownfields areas, which tend to be in the middle parts of Melbourne. Once you get into the Greyfields, transport or access to public transport is currently not a factor. In terms of where different yields are occurring, well, 1-for-1 means knock down and rebuild a detached house. That seems to be very attractive to the high socioeconomic status areas, and also in terms of apartments. That's where the high-rise apartments are occurring in Melbourne, in the high SES areas. In the lower socioeconomic areas is basically where the medium density housing is currently going. It's important to differentiate the brownfields and the greenfields, we feel. Infill in most strategic planning departments are lumped together, yet there are very different drivers as to what happens in brownfields and what could happen in the greenfields region. And this tends to illustrate it. The significant challenges that we have in our cities is attempting to develop a development model for housing that is of the order of, say, 10 to 20 dwelling units in capacity. There is really no operational model in Australian cities and the building and the property sector for delivering that particular kind of outcome. So that's where our project is critically focused in terms of identifying precincts for this scale of redevelopment and then going on to Module 3 with the development of plans. Which brings us to the other use for this data and tool, which is essentially to enliven and inject an engagement process into the whole planning arena, because it's sadly lacking in terms of engagement between state governments and local governments in terms of their particular planning approaches and plans, as well as the engagement between local government and communities in terms of what is possible. How could you envisage a future? So it's a matter of how do you identify prospective precincts for redevelopment. Peter's already showed you the kind of multi-criteria tool that we've developed for this, using all of the attributes that we think are appropriate to the redevelopment process within suburban areas. And so as you begin to filter data, you can begin to identify more prospective locations that qualify for urban regeneration, and the kind of engagement processes that then can take place with stakeholders about different clusters that you have here. And so we're beginning to identify typologies of different types of housing, a business as usual type of approach versus a more sustainable approach for the different classes and scales of parcels that one can identify. So it just enriches the discussion processes that are possible between local governments and residents, between state governments and local governments, in terms of what's possible for a particular area in envisaging how it may develop. And that's about where we are at the moment. Thank you.